to 2025. This is the first video I'm filming in the new year. Although you've seen my face every day at the time of this filming except today. And today is the 7th. So, welcome to the Protagonist Pub. My name is Tammy, and this is where characters gather. So, I hope everyone had a blessed and joyful Christmas season. I am going to be taking down our tree today and putting the house back into its normal state. And never a task I look forward to. It won't take me long, but it's always kind of sad to put away the Christmas decorations and put them into storage for the rest of the year. So a little housekeeping. If you are new here, welcome. I hope you find something to read that you didn't know existed, you had heard things about, but they weren't necessarily good things. I tend to have very eclectic reading tastes. I read across almost every genre there is. I'm not a huge fan of horror, and the grimmiest of grimdark is usually something I don't get along with too well. However, and I tend to read almost anything other than those two genres. I do not like my books overly spicy. In fact, I don't like a lot of spice in the books. And I grew up as a reader learning to not just skip the spice, but I don't even really notice it anymore. It shows up on page and I flip until it's over. So, that is me. So, today, the creative juices are starting to flow again. And so I thought, as you know, if you watched my 12 Days of Christmas videos, there are 3 yearly challenges that I am trying to keep pace with. And this morning, since it's still relatively early in the month, being the 7th, it's probably coming out on the 8th, I thought I would share some recommendations for Anne's challenge, Amanda's challenge, and Jeanette's challenge. So Anne's challenge, here's the Anne's graphic, is the Reading the Classics challenge. And she has a very excellent announcement video for that. I will link it down below. And her first prompt is to read a book off of your physical TBR. Well, I don't have anything to recommend because I don't know what's on your physical TBRs. I have many. Some of them are already in progress, and they are scattered throughout the house. I didn't pick them up. If all goes according to the plan in my head for, scheduled reading this month, the first bi-weekly wrap-up will come out next week, and I will have finished at least one of those physical classics on my TBR by then. So, stay tuned for that. If all goes well, it may be more than one classic, so we shall see. So that leaves Amanda's and Jeanette's. So let's do Jeanette's first. I'm trying not to duplicate books between these 2 prompts. It would be very easy to bleed them together, but I'm trying very hard to keep them separate. So Jeanette's prompt, and here's her graphic, and her announcement video will be linked down below, is to start a new series in January. And Jeanette's challenge is for Christian fiction. So I have Christian fiction recommendations. They are all first books in the series. It is a mix of series I have read and loved and series I want to start. Don't ask me when that will happen this year because, yeah. So let's do the series I want to start first. Okay, so there are 4 books in this pile over here, and completely by happenstance, I didn't duplicate an author. So, yay me. And I have read every author in this list but one. So let's do the author I haven't read first. That would be Patricia Bradley, and the first in the series is Shadows of the Past, and the series is Logan Point. So that is the cover, and I will read you some of the back. While she's stalking the truth, someone is stalking her. Psychology professor and criminal profiler Taylor Martin prides herself on being able to solve any crime, except the one she wants most desperately to solve: the disappearance of her father 20 years ago. When she finally has a lead on his whereabouts, Taylor returns home to Logan Point, Mississippi to investigate. But as she works to uncover the truth, someone else will do almost anything to keep her from it. Nick St. Clair pens mystery novels for a living, but the biggest mystery to him is how he can ever get over the death of his wife, a tragedy he believes he could have prevented. Now that his estranged brother is the only family he has left, Nick sets out to find him. But when he crosses paths with Taylor, all he seems to find is trouble. Join the chase as Taylor and Nick search the murky shadows of the past for the keys to unlocking the present, and moving into a future they never imagined. I think this sounds very interesting and suspenseful, and I love a good mystery, and it's a book about an author. And, as you know, I'm challenging myself to write at least, 5 times a week. It's going well so far, assuming I sit down and write today. So, yeah. Next up would be Final Judgment by Irene Hanna. This is the first book in the Guardians of Justice series. And I will read you the back. U.S. Marshal Jake Taylor has seen plenty of action during his years in law enforcement, but he'd rather go back to Iraq than face his next assignment: protection detail for federal judge Liz Michaels. His feelings toward the cold-hearted workaholic haven't warmed in the 5 years since she drove her husband and Jake's best friend to despair and possible suicide. As the danger mounts and Jake gets to know Liz better, he is forced to revise his opinion of her. And when it becomes clear that an unknown enemy may want her dead, the stakes are raised, because now both her life and his heart are in danger. Irene Hanna can write a very good story. So this may work as a, palate cleanser for me. Next up would be the first book in the Blue Justice series by Lynette Eason. This is Oath of Honor. By the way, I found all of these at my library bookshop. I will just read you the top tagline on this one. A murdered partner, a missing brother. Will Isabel's silence protect those she loves or delay justice? I like Lynette Eason's writing style. I like her ability to build suspense and tension as the book progresses and it continues to escalate. So I am looking forward to this. Okay, last up of the 4 books is the first in the Quantico series. Yeah. FBI Quantico series. So that'd be Nightfall by Nancy Mail. I understand the cover. I do not like the cover. Nothing about this cover compels me to pick this book up. However, I know that it involves Kaylee Quinn. I have read the Kaylee Quinn trilogy by Nancy Mell, which was written after this series, so I'll read you the back of this one. For any little boy or girl who hears the train man speak, who feels his rancid breath caress their pretty cheek, must close their eyes, pretend to sleep, and very softly pray, or else the evil train man may carry them away. I've read this cover recently, so I'm just going to stop there. This sounds incredibly creepy. However, I'm probably not reading this year. I need a break from Nancy Mell. Why she has a good writing style. The last two books in the Kaylee Quinn series were not my favorite. They rushed to the ending and it became a tell me, don't show me conclusion. And I was not a huge fan at all. So let's move on to the books series that I have read that I can easily recommend. So first up would be The Well by Stephanie Lansom. This is the first book in the Living Waters trilogy. If you watched my Discover Catholic Fiction genre episode during the 12 Days of Christmas, you will know that Stephanie Lansom is a Catholic author. This is biblical fiction. And this is the Woman at the Well story. It is the first book in the trilogy. I enjoyed it. However, I will tell you that it is what I would consider a young adult novel. It isn't bad. It isn't poorly written. None of that is true. However, at my stage of life, it read incredibly young. I think the closer you are in age to the characters, the less young it will read to you. I am a good 40 years distant from the characters in the book, maybe a little less, but that's enough that it reads on the young side for me. But it was still a very good novel. Next up is two of my favorite reads from last year. First up would be Counterfeit Love by Krista Cadell. This is the first book in the Hidden Hearts of the Gilded Age series, and it is absolutely fantastic. It is historical romantic suspense, and it follows a trio of Secret Service agents. And this one takes place in 1883 Cincinnati. So I completely enjoy the fact that it took place in a non-traditional setting for a mystery novel, a suspense novel. You rarely get, books set in Cincinnati. And it was absolutely fantastic. I have read the second book, and I'm hoping to finish the third book in the series this year. And I'm sorry if you hear the bird. He is out this morning with me in the living room because, well, it's 25 degrees outside, and his little macaw body cannot handle that temperature. Okay, next up would be Veiled in Smoke by Jocelyn Green. This is the first book in the Windy City Saga trilogy. It was the inaugural book for my book club. We read it last year in January. Fortunately, it is the only book not on the Discord server, but if you want to come join us for book club, as always, the Discord invitation is in the description box. And you can see all my tabs are still there. I absolutely love this book. I could have used this book for the prompt for Amanda's readathon, but I'm putting it here. It is the first book in the series. It deals with the aftermath of the Great Fire of Chicago. and it's a mystery. There's a thread of romance running through it. It gives off Little Women vibes. It gives off, you will think of the Book of Job as you read it. It talks about PTSD for Civil War soldiers. It wasn't called PTSD at the time, but you will recognize it as PTSD. It was absolutely a fantastic book, and everybody who picked it up absolutely loved it. And Amanda and I are scheduled to read book 2 this month. So there you go. Those are my recommendations for Jeanette's January prompt. And I think any of them would be an absolutely tremendous fit. Okay, so Amanda's prompt, and here's her graphic, is Coming Home. And this is for her Southern Comfort Reading Challenge. Goes all year. January prompt. It could be going home to your parents. It could be coming home, that sense of coming home you get in a relationship that's right. There are many, many ways to interpret coming home, and I have gathered not a huge selection because almost everything I wanted to gather for this prompt, I'm saving for the March prompt. There's a lot of overlap, but that's okay. I'm going to save those. I'm going to have a much bigger selection for March. So, what did I choose? Well, I'm also surprisingly reading this month. I checked out this copy from the library. I am ordering my own set. This is Anne of Green Gables, L.M. Montgomery. Obviously, it's a story about an orphan. If you haven't read Anne of Green Gables, it's about an orphan who finds her family. She comes home. She even says it when she's driving up to Green Gables with Matthew. And Anne holds a place in all of our hearts. How could she not? Okay, so the first one I'm going to recommend for this is actually a series. And while you're me, I will tell you to read them in order. You can read them out of order. That is the Two Hearts series by Sharon M. Peterson. The first book in the series is, oh Lord, cover's right here. And the second book in the series is The Fast Lane. And these are rom-coms, but they are both all about family and about finding your place within your family. And I think that is a very big part of, for me personally, coming home and being comfortable, always being able to go home. And the next one, this probably isn't a surprise. I'm sure everybody could guess this by now. I'm also going to recommend The Do-Over by Sharon M. Peterson. This is a standalone novel, and it is a fantastic romantic comedy, and it is about a young woman who on New Year's Eve discovers her boyfriend, who she anticipated was going to propose that night, breaks up with her on the radio. And over the course of the next year, you watch Perry go from this timid, unable to stand up for herself young woman to a young woman who knows what she wants in life, is determined to get it, has a newfound appreciation for her own goofy family, and She has one of the best written grandmothers known to mankind. Mimi alone will make you laugh. Okay, so I do not have a copy of this book. However, I will recommend Esme Calhill Fails Spectacularly by Marie Boswick. This is a standalone. It is clean, and it could have fit the March prompt for multi-generational. However, I'm going to include it here because it tells the story of Esme, who is forced to go home to her grandparents' motel where she grew up after she loses her publishing job in New York City, and her dreams, she thinks, have crumbled into proverbial dust, and she is forced back into the bosom of her family. And this is not a romance. There is no thread of romance in this book. This is contemporary women's fiction, and it is not filled with nonsense. Despite the fact that it is recently published and by a big name publisher. This is a book about loving the family you have and opening your heart to learning things about them you didn't know, and how that process strengthens your love, and how sometimes our own dreams are more tied to home than we really realized. I absolutely love this book. If you love grandparents, if you love a good story with your grandparents in it, I highly recommend this book. Everything I have ever read from Boswick has been emotional without being sappy, and uplifting without being preachy, and just absolutely fantastic. And I think the last one I really want to recommend is the Freddie and Grace mystery series by Pepper Basham. You know, the 4th book in the series is coming out at some point this year. I have read the first 3, and the first book is The Mistletoe Countess, and in it, Grace decides that she is going to step into the marriage of convenience instead of her big sister, who is pregnant by another man, and she was going to attempt to pass it off as her new husband's baby to get her out of a pickle, but she really loved someone else, and it takes off from there. And Freddie and Grace have to find their way in this new marriage that, wasn't initially founded on love, together with God, and how they build a family and a home for them, those in their employ, their friends. It is a beautiful ongoing series that has a nice variety of characters. It has some action in it. It has some romance. It has some adventure. And while they aren't stationed at, their, manor house in England, Freddie and Grace are always home to each other. And I think that's what makes the series work, is that they are each other's home. So wherever they are in the world, they are always home. And that is pretty much my definition. If you had to ask me to describe Dave, I would say he's home. Wherever we are, as long as we are together, we are home. That's what it means to me. So that is just a couple of recommendations. I could have pulled a variety of books off of my shelf that I want to read for this, but I don't know if they fit the definition quite in the manner that would make sense to me personally, so I'm not going to do any I want to read recommendations for this prompt. I will have plenty of those in upcoming prompts for Amanda. So, you can look forward to one of these videos at least every month for my yearly challenges. If there's a lot of books for a particular challenge, I may break that, yearly challenge video out into one of its own, or I may just keep them combined. We shall see. Moving forward. So, are you participating in any yearly challenges? If so, what? Have you read any of these? Do you want to read any of these? Leave a comment down below, like and subscribe, and I will see you here next time at the Protagonist Pub.